I am so excited to show you today how to create a giant succulent topped pumpkin. Whether you're creating a massive pumpkin or regular size or the super cute miniature ones, which we have on the blog, you'll find that the process is the same. Now, the Succulent Source was kind enough to send me 50 beautiful succulent cuttings to use for this project. They also sent the other supplies that we needed as well. So I have some moss here along with some fall decor and then a hot glue gun. I've added 2 other types of glue myself. So I have this Oasis floral adhesive. This is my favorite for actually adhering the succulents to the moss or to the pumpkin. I find that it keeps them in place better than hot glue and it doesn't bruise or damage the stem. A lot of people will use hot glue and you can definitely do that. I just find that especially if you're using a hot or a high temperature glue gun as opposed to a lower temperature glue gun, you can get some burning on the succulents and it doesn't look as pretty and can cause problems down the road. It is an option, so if all you have is the glue gun, go for it. I just prefer to use the floral adhesive because I feel like it doesn't damage the succulents and it also adheres better. So a lot of succulents, as well as the pumpkin, have kind of a waxy coating to them, and the floral adhesive seems to really catch on to that a little bit better than the hot glue. So we will be using the hot glue to attach the moss to the top and then the Oasis to adhere most of the succulents. And then we may use a little bit of the clear tacky gel. This is a favorite from a lot of different succulent designers. I personally prefer the floral adhesive, but I wanted to throw that out there as an option for you. So let's get started. I know that this is going to be the front of my pumpkin because the back side doesn't look quite as nice. So this is the part that will be facing the front. So I'm going to try and mound up a little bit of the moss back here, but then kind of create a focal point toward the front. But honestly, for the most part, we're just going to cover this whole thing with succulents. So the first thing that you'll want to do is apply the moss. And this part gets messy. So you want to kind of separate out the moss a little bit. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I am going to use the hot glue along the top. So you'll want to add a generous amount of hot glue to the top here and then apply your moss pretty quickly before it dries. And then you can come back with the glue gun and attach anything that isn't staying put. Obviously, you should also be careful with the hot glue gun because it is hot, so make sure that you are being careful and using any necessary safety precautions. The moss really gives the succulent something to hold on to, plus it fills in the gaps if you don't quite have a solid layer of succulents and just adds that nice fall feel to it. So I'm going to start toward the center and then work my way out. And again, focusing a little bit more on the front, and then we'll maybe add some in the back just to kind of finish up. So with the floral glue, it doesn't dry immediately, but it does dry quickly. So usually if you just hold it in place for a second or two, it will stay put pretty well. And I'm being pretty generous with the amount of glue that I add. That way they are sure to stay in place. Okay, now I'm gonna mix in some of our other greener options and then just some different textures. So I think these Haworthias will look really cool mixed in kind of the front here with some of the Echeverias. the great things about making a succulent topped pumpkin is as long as you leave it in an area where it's not going to get too cold and it gets some sunlight, this arrangement will last for several months. So if you live in a zone 9 climate like I do, you'll be fine leaving it out on your patio through Thanksgiving and maybe even into December. If you live in a 4-season climate and you start getting snow and it gets freezing temperatures in October, which is probably most of you, then you will want to make sure that you either use cold hardy succulents or you bring this inside. Inside, you're probably going to want to put it under a grow light if you can. Otherwise, just let it stay dry. Don't worry about watering it at all. And then as soon as the succulents start to look limp and pretty underwatered, then you can go ahead and remove them from the pumpkin and plant them up in some pots. So that is the fun thing about this, is it lasts for a while as a pumpkin, and then you can transition it into potted arrangements after that. So whenever you've decided that your succulent pumpkin is finished, simply remove the cuttings and then you can pot them up elsewhere. As long as you don't poke holes in the pumpkin itself, the pumpkin should last quite a while. And so your arrangement can really last as long as the pumpkin stays healthy. And in order to care for this, you'll want to just get the top of it lightly wet. So you might go in with a little squeeze bottle and just get the moss wet, and that will help the succulents grow some roots while they're up there and stay plump a little longer. Or, like I said, you can also just leave it dry, and as soon as they start to shrivel more than you'd like, then you can go ahead and pull them out and transition them to pots. So it really depends just on your climate and what you want the arrangement to look like, how long you want it to last. All right, so we're doing pretty well across the front here. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more here, and then I'll turn it around and show you what we'll do on the back. I really like the unity that having so many different rosettes in here adds, but then just this little pop of contrast from having the few Haworthias in there I think looks really fun. Alright, I think this is filling in really nicely. So I have a few of these smaller cuttings left, some Crassula perforata, and we'll just add these through here just for a little bit more visual interest, kind of have them trailing down a little bit. succulent to go in right there. And there we have our beautiful, massive, succulent topped pumpkin.